What is the 31st of January deadline, and should I be worried? Hopefully you like the content. Please do subscribe, like and share. Brought to you by Google's Bookkeepers. Right, financial year end. So the UK government's financial year end is the 5th of April. It never changes. Every year, even if you see in this case it's Easter Sunday, doesn't matter. It's always the 5th of April. And that's the end of the financial year and the beginning is the 6th. And they use that as a time to bring in new tax rates, new budgets and other kinds of things. Don't ask me why it's the 5th of April and not the 1st of April or whatever. I have no idea, but that's just what it is and what it is. So it's the 5th of April. Now, if you've been trading up to, for example, the 5th of April 2021, then you have until the 31st of January 2022 to file your self-assessment tax return with the HMRC. This is in the UK. So anyone trading up to the 5th of April 21 has until the 31st of January 22. Your deadline is always the 31st of January. So the question is, should I be worried? Well, it all depends. So let's have a look. So if you were trading up until the 5th of April 2021, then yes, you will need to get your tax return done by the end of January 2022. Now, if you started trading after the 5th of April, then it's your first year, then you have until the following January to file. So you need to just double check when your first year end is. You need to maybe cross check the financial year end deadline that you have trading to then have your accounts to file. So let's say it's September 2021 and you have to cross April in order to complete that first year, and then it's the following January 2023 that you would have to file if you were in September. So it's about the 5th of April. Did you begin before or after? If you began before, then your year end will end on the 5th, and if you began after, you've got the rest of the months to then have your first year. So let me just give you a few more examples. So let's say you became self-employed in June 2021. Okay, your first year would be to the 5th of April 2022, and then you have 9 months to file, or maybe 10, call it, and your deadline is basically the 31st of January, but in 2023. Okay, there's a warning here though. You will be fined an instant penalty if you are late. And these penalties keep on increasing. So it's £100 instantly if you get to the 1st of February and you've not filed. After 3 months, you get another penalty and so on. And it just keeps on increasing until the tax return is in. Where do I have to go to file the tax return, you may ask? Well, where do you have to go? In order to file a tax return, you need to register at hmrc.gov.uk, and then they will give you a username and a password. And then that's your account, and then you log back in and you register for the service that you want to use. So in this case, it will be to file self-assessment tax returns. And there's various services on there. There's VAT service, there's self-assessment, there's payroll, there's various different services. So you would want to register to file the self-assessment tax returns. What happens at that point is they send you an activation code in the post. This takes a few days to come through. They say allow 2 weeks at least, and then you activate your account and then you can go ahead and file online. Now, how difficult is it is another question I'm often asked. Now, honestly, the HMRC make it easy for you to file your tax return. They want to make it as easy as possible, and I would always say just see the online form as being like an online questionnaire. It's going to ask you a series of questions. Just have your answers ready, you fill it in, very easy, very straightforward process. Just answer the questions. Now, I say just answer the questions, and it's an easy task to do if you've got those answers ready. This is where the bookkeeping comes in. But the kind of questions that this online form will ask you, aside from your name, address, date of birth, it will be, what was your income in the period in question? What were your expenses in that time frame? And were you employed in the year? If you were, then you'd need your P60, and you pull the figures off that P60 piece of paper. Was there income from property? If there was, you put that onto your tax return. You should have a record of that. If you're using a lettings agent, it's possible they might provide you with something, but that should be recorded. And the system will calculate your tax for you. There is nothing for you to do in that sense. The system will calculate your tax for you. So the question is, when do I have to pay the tax? You need to pay the tax by the 31st of January deadline. So you can fill out your form earlier on in the year. You could have filled it out in October, you could have filled it out in July, but the tax itself is actually due as at the 31st of January. And it's always a good reason to get your form in early, because then at least you'll know what your tax liability is, and it gives you time to save up for it, so then there's no nasty surprises. When you've been trading for a while, well, not even for a while, on your first set of accounts, when the first time you file, if the profit is sufficient, and that could just, I don't know, be over £100, they may ask you to do a payment on account, and that will be on the 31st of July. And generally, everyone, most people anyway, are asked to do a payment on account, simply so that it helps towards the following year's tax bill and it's less of a struggle. So instead of expecting you and asking you to find a whole year's worth of tax money all in January, after your first year, if you've been making your payments on account, every July you would have paid something. So it means that when the balancing payment is due in January, it's not so bad. But they ask you, make a payment on account in July, and that will go towards your tax bill due in January. Any other questions, please drop it in the link, or send us an email, preferably, to admin@booglesltd.com. Hopefully video was useful. Subscribe, like and share. Here to answer any other questions.